Good evening. I'd like to call this regularly scheduled meeting for Tuesday, September 2nd to order. If you'd all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Katari, roll call, please.
Trustee Truscott is excused and absent this evening. Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Durant.
Here.
Trustee Pompo.
Here.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Limata.
Here.
Staff President is Manager Gerard. Excuse me. Fire Chief Sims. ZBA Chair John Marks, and Roads and Recreation Dave Wiegand.
Thank you. Next item on your agenda is approval of the consent agenda. As you know, the items on the consent agenda typically do not require immediate board action. This evening includes the approval of the prior meeting minutes of July 1st, received reports of the September Township calendar, Fire Department Activity Report of July, Water Production Report of July, the Market Area Wastewater Treatment Facility Ad Board draft minutes from August 21st, the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority draft minutes from July 16th, bills payable this evening in the amount of $109,403.23, and financial statements from July and Treasurer's Report of July 2014. Are there any items in the consent agenda that any member of this board wishes to remove for further discussion? Clerk Rattari?
It should say prior meeting minutes of August 19th, 2014. We've already approved July 1st. Excuse me.
Any other corrections or items that want to be removed? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion we approve as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. The next item on your agenda is approval of the remainder of the agenda. Are there any items on this agenda that the board wishes to modify? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion of approval of the remainder of the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Okay, supported.
Motion and support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The agenda is approved. Thank you very much. This is going to bring us up to public comment. Those members of the public wishing to make comment may do so at this time. Please approach the podium. First and last name and address, if you would.
John Marks, 155 Hidden Springs, Chair of the ZBA. Time on 9A if needed.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Anyone else?
My name is Katrina Keogh. I live at 2212 Summit Street. Spoke with Mr. LaRue yesterday, I believe it was. And I'm here just regarding the park that's going across the street, directly across from our house. We're on the west side of Summit, in between Ontario and Erie. And I first of all like to say thank you for doing this. We're very excited about the park, and with new things, we have some concerns. We have two boys who are 8 and 5. And we're concerned about privacy as well as some safety issues. Number one, on the diagram it says the parking expansion will require removal of existing trees at the street. There's a berm there currently with some very mature trees that provide privacy and shade for us, and we'd like to have the rec committee and the board reconsider keeping those trees there. The ones that are, of course, going to be lasting a lot longer than some of the ones that are dying. It does provide privacy for us, and my bin of hockey pucks will show that we may need a little bit more privacy, maybe some more hedging as is going in. From what I've heard from the umbrellos on the west side, I'd like to ask if maybe it could be considered that we'd get some more privacy as far as trees or hedging. The second thing is, of course, safety with the traffic, as Erie will be closing. We are a busy street, believe it or not, and this will cause more traffic to go through. as well as the parking spots at the end of our driveway. We're asking if possibly it could be considered on that north side, I'd say the northwest corner, if possible removal of 5 to 6 parking spots could be allotted. That way it would make the end of our driveway a lot safer as far as people pulling in and out, a lot safer for us to pull in and out, as again, we have young children, as well as the people next to us and on the west side of us also have young children. It was their concern as well, and I said that I'd be coming to voice our concerns on that. And again, I'd like to say thank you for doing this. The other thing I wanted to bring up is we had, along with another family, had wondered if there was a chance for us to donate perhaps a park bench or a table or even a mature tree of some kind to show our support for the area. I grew up there. I'm 30 now, and I grew up on Evergreen Lane. I've lived in Trowbridge my whole life, and I love what it has to offer, that it's natural and serene, and it's a great place to live. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Move to board member comment. Those members of the board wishing to make comment may do so at this time. Clerk Rattari?
Just a reminder for everyone that school is back in session. Watch out for the school buses and the young children on the streets. And I know it's daylight. We have enough daylight in the morning and evenings right now, but another month or two, we'll go back to that fall back, and it'll be darker in the evenings. So just a reminder for all the residents to look out for the kids.
Thank you. Pete?
A couple of things. Just remind people if they want to watch the meeting, it's on Channel 188 on Thursday at 7 o'clock. Second thing, on Wright Street, because of the rain, some of the gravel is washed out from the side of the road as you come down the hill, and the gravel is out on the, where the people should be walking and running. And I noticed that people are, like from the high school, they're out there in the morning and at night. They're running out into the traffic a little bit to go around that gravel. I would like to see someone done about that from the road commission. But just be careful when you're going down Wright Street towards town. Be careful the kids are out there. They're going around that gravel because, you know, they might turn their ankle or something like that on that. So also starting next week, every Monday and Wednesday, on Mondays from 12 to 1, Wednesday from 6 to 7. We're going to have discussion here in the boardroom on road millage. We're going to have a staff member and also a member of the road committee on there to answer questions. How will a millage affect you? What will be done? When will it be done in the area it's covered? So just remember, on Mondays it could be from 12 to 1, Wednesdays from 6 to 7. So feel free to come in. We want your comments on it, and you can contact us at any time if you don't get time to do that. So please ask the questions. We're here for you. So that we'll be here for the next 2 months, right up to the end of October. So September and October, every Monday and Wednesday, 12 to 1, Mondays, Wednesdays from 6 to 7. So right here at the township. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Clerk Rattari?
Excuse me. Yeah, I also forgot last week, myself, Trustee LaRue, and Trustee Durant attended in Marquette the UP Summit. And we had a chance to listen to the legislators talk, and that was pretty interesting. We had a few seminars on budgeting, and I had one on elections, and there was some other good courses that were presented there. And I would just like to thank the board and residents for the opportunity to go, because every time we get a chance to go and interact with other townships and the MTA, it's a good thing. And I can tell you, for what we do here and talking to other townships, we do a lot of things right. So I think the residents should be proud of the township we live in, because there's some folks around the state that are struggling.
Thank you. Board member comment. Lynn?
Yes, sir. Ditto, Randy. That's very true. It's kind of sad to hear some of the stories that are coming from our peers across the state, and some of the struggles that they're having too. One of the meetings I went to, or breakout sessions, they call them, was on budgeting. And some of that stuff I will bring to our budget meeting, some of the suggestions and comments. Fire protection was another one I went to, and that's the Firewise, which is real similar to a DNR seminar I went to across the street at the fire hall. So I've got a list of questions I'm going to talk to the fire chief about and see if we're doing it kind of the way they're recommending. I also did planning and zoning. There's some, this particular one was about minimizing the community's risk with sand and gravel mining, and it went through some of the explanations. I thought maybe it might have pertained to any kind of mining, but it doesn't. It's just sand and gravel. So some of that, it looks like we're pretty much doing everything, and they did have some suggestions, so I'll bring that to the planning level. Planning and zoning was one of the other ones, too. I didn't put any notes on here, but I'll address that with them. And then the last one was open meetings and FOIA. And I had conflicting meetings the week that this was held, and I was debating whether to go, and I thought, you know, do I need to go? I'm not like I'm totally knowledgeable about everything, but I thought, oh, it's probably the same stuff that MTA has all the time. And it was, but there's something I learned in each breakout session, which is just remarkable, besides the fact of the networking, too. I even got to have a couple of dinners with Clerk Rattari, which is unusual because we don't, socialize or anything, so I got to know him a little better, which was nice. So I thought it was extremely worthwhile, and I appreciate being allowed to go. I did forego the other two meetings I had and to attend this. Also, the library meeting is tomorrow night, and I got my packet today, would have been today, today's Tuesday. So I didn't remember it off the top of my head to remind you, but if there's anything you want me to discuss, the millage renewal is going to be on their agenda. They're going to talk about the Powell Township ballot request as well. And the packet is a lot of financial information, what they've been doing, the events that they've been holding. There's their budgeting struggles, so I'll bring you back a little report after tomorrow's meeting for that. I think that's about it.
Thanks, Lynn. Dan, anything?
Clerk Rattari, I was just going to bring up the start of school, but Clerk Rattari beat me to it, so I'll just let it go from there.
Ready? I don't have anything either. We'll close board member comment and move on to unfinished business. Agenda item number 8A. Consider the road committee informational meeting schedule. As you are aware, at our last meeting, they presented their schedule. We had some discussion around it. We talked about, it seemed, almost overkill or too aggressive. There were some concerns expressed about, potential staff time being used, away from the regular work and having to fill in with this, with some overtime paid. We gave them, an opportunity to review it and see if it was still a go, and it comes back to us. As you know, it has already gone out. We had told them that it was all a go if they agreed to continue to move forward with it. They did, and in fact, Planner McCarthy isn't here this evening. He's actually representing us over at the county board meeting this evening as they consider the bonding request through the Marquette County Road Commission and support for that. But I will say that Planner McCarthy did let me know that as a township resident and a proponent of the road millage, that he would happily be at any of these meetings, including the Wednesday evening meetings, without considering that as his work schedule, and would be happy to donate his time. I just thought I'd let the board know that, and that's how important that the planner thought that it was. So it's before you. It has gone out, and really it was on here, on your agenda as informational, so that we had the opportunity to sell this to residents as many times as we possibly can. That here's your opportunity on Mondays from 12 to 1 or Wednesdays from 6 to 7 p.m. to find out what that impact on the road rehabilitation plan looks like for your unique property. And that's really why it's on the agenda, is to formalize it. Dave, I don't know if you had anything to add as a member of the road committee, so if you do, please address it.
There's a couple things to add. First, we did get it on the calendar that went out in the utility bill mailing. And it'll be on the October calendar that goes out in the utility bill mailing. Also, that went out with the mailing was the proposed Marquette Township road millage fact sheet. Kind of answers a lot of the questions that might be on the residents' minds and encourages them to attend some of the workshops to see if we can get some discussion going on and get the rest of their questions answered. We did come up with, as promised at the last meeting, we come up with a 10-minute presentation that is currently on the township website that the residents can access. Be happy to go through that with you right now if you want. We said we'd have one for you to view at tonight's meeting. So if it pleases the board.
I have no objections. It doesn't look like anyone else does either, so if you want to share, please do so.
You want to turn that on, Dave, to the side, make sure it's on.
That'll work better. So this is on the township website. It's the road millage workshop presentation, and we start with the project background. So in 2013, the road committee and staff commenced on a detailed road study of the local roads in Township Park, in Trowbridge Park, and presented our findings to the Planning Commission and Township Board. The Township Board directed the road committee and staff to expand the study to include all the local roads within the township. The road committee then and staff provided a revised order of repair based on PASA ratings and local factors such as complete streets, north-south connecting streets, emergency service routes, and school bus routing for all roads within the township. In June of 2014, the Township Board heard presentations on the methodology, asset management principles, and road soft and approximate schedules for costs for repair. This presentation is intended to answer the questions regarding who, what, where, when, and how. The who, our partners on this project will be the Marquette Township residents, Marquette Township staff, Marquette County Road Commission, and the Marquette County Drain Commission. The township residents are responsive to your input on the prior community surveys. Roads and transportation management have been your top rated priorities. Our residents have supported the last two major road millages with the current .85 millage expiring in 2014 in order to improve the quality of the roads in the township. The proposed project is the most aggressive in reconstruction improvements in the history of Marquette County. The achievement of your stated desires for improved roads will be a question for your decision on the November ballot. The Marquette Township staff. Marquette staff will administer prospective grant applications. Staff will also provide technical assistance with financial package and assist with project design and oversight to ensure quality control and cost effectiveness. The Marquette County Road Commission is offered to provide design, engineering, and construction oversight, valued between 15% to 20% of the project, and calculated at 17.5% for this project cost estimation. The Marquette County Drain Commissioner has offered to provide technical assistance, support, and to pursue state revolving funds, low-interest loans for the portion of the project affecting the Badger Creek Drainage District. That's an example of the blue highlights where the Badger Creek Drainage District is. As you see, it encompasses a considerable portion of Trowbridge. The what? Our deliverables for this project, if supported by our residents, will be, for the first time in recent history, Marquette Township's local roads will feature satisfactory road surface conditions, adequate drainage, and sufficient non-motorized network that will be financially sustainable and maintained into the future. Together with the Marquette County Road Commission and the Marquette County Drainage Commission, our township will utilize modern engineering design to maintain and/or reconstruct all the necessary local road surfaces, repairs, and stormwater management measures within 3 years. This is a simple example of the how it would improve neighborhood lighting. Many of these lighting improvements in Trowbridge have already been scheduled for this year. This is a graph on the walkability in the Trowbridge area, and it shows that the majority of Trowbridge is within 15 minutes of Lions Field. There's just some idea of the different more successful treatments for the road with drain covers and such. And this is how we're planning on controlling most of our stormwater, is sufficient funding to perform the maintenance, and will utilize bit curve for stormwater drainage. The where. All local roads within Marquette Township are proposed to receive reconstruction or maintenance upgrades within 3 years if the funding request is approved by our residents. When. These repairs would occur per the Township Board's direction per the order of repair schedule. The next slide shows the roads that would be improved during the 2015. As you can see, the majority of the work is in Trowbridge itself. There's 15 miles of the 34 roads that were considered. That represents 15 miles that will receive reconstruction, overlaying, or maintenance. How? The reconstruction, maintenance, lighting, and walkability improvements will require an intense amount of planning to implement, not only from a logistical sense, but also from a financial perspective. The Township Roads Rehabilitation Proposed Program, as proposed by the Road Committee, estimated cost to complete was $7 million. The recommended 10% contingency was $700,000, bringing a subtotal of $7,700,000. The Road Commission contribute design, engineering, bidding, and construction oversight, estimated at 7.5%. That relates to $1,347,500. The estimated pre-bid total project turns out to be $6,352,500. Public awareness. In addition to public hearings at board level, publication of board-approved road rehabilitation plan in the media, by e-blast, a website and Facebook pages, as utility building inserts, and etc. Public workshops are scheduled twice weekly, Monday from 12 to 1 and Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m., beginning Monday, September the 8th, and lasting through October. The important facts to consider. Through community surveys, planning, work sessions, and comments received from the Township Board meetings, Township residents have consistently stated that poor surface road conditions of the local road system is a top priority to address within the community. Marquette Township does not own or maintain roads located within our boundary. These roads within Marquette Township are owned and controlled by the Marquette County Road Commission. Sufficient funding is not being generated to support the Marquette County Road Commission maintaining or repairing the Marquette County infrastructure system, with currently cost to maintain the road system significantly exceeds the available revenues, and the need continues to increase. The expiring .85 mil road millage was approved by the residents to rebuild Werner Street, with any remaining balance of the funding being applied to rehabilitate Brookton Road. The current road millage will expire December 31st, 2014. Effective January 1st, 2015, there will be no local road property tax monies going to the roads. And state transportation funding has increased only once since 1984. The last increase was in 1997. Legislative inaction makes a state funding increase uncertain in the foreseeable future. In 2015, Marquette Township is proposed a millage of 1.5 mils per 15 years to improve and maintain local streets and roads. Millage will provide approximately $500,000 annually to taxpayers, the cost to taxpayers is $150 per $100,000 of taxable value. Inasmuch as the current .85 mills expires on December 31st, 2014, and the proposed 1.5 mills would become effective January 1st, 2015, the net effect upon resident taxes will be a .65 mill increase over current, or $65 per $100,000 of taxable value. Currently, less than 20% of all roads in Marquette Township are rated as good. If approved, the fund generated by the 2015 millage would improve that rating to 80% good within the next 3 years. Marquette Township Asset Management Plan will guide spending of the millage funds. Asset management, according to Public Act 199 of 2007, means ongoing process of maintaining, upgrading, and operating physical assets cost effectively based on continued physical inventory and condition assessment. The implementation of an asset management decision process allows Marquette Township to make informed decisions for the transportation network with the most accurate information. The process enables statewide transportation transparent decision process and measurable performance. The overall plan is focused on improvements that will benefit all township residents and will also include street lighting, walkability, and stormwater and concerns and runoff concerns, funding from other resources and not funded from the proposed millage. The Marquette Township Board, Road Committee, and the staff have prioritized projects based on PASER, road surface condition ratings, safety, traffic volumes, road function, school bus, emergency routing, and non-motorized transportation opportunities. Roads not considered for repair by this millage are all of County Road 550. County Road 550 is currently undergoing extensive rehabilitation in preparation for Eagle Mine trucking. Does not include County Road 492 from the township west border to Commerce Drive. This is currently scheduled for completion in 2016 by the Marquette County Road Commission. Does not include Wright Street from the city limits to the Target intersection. And finally, Ontario Street from Werner to Wright Street is currently scheduled for reconstruction in 2017 by the Marquette County Road Commission and is therefore not being considered in this reconstruction program. The current list of projects calls for a work on 15 miles of the 34 miles of local roads in 2015. 2016 will see the reconstruction and rehabilitation of another 15 miles of local roads, with the remaining 4 miles being completed in 2017. This is a map that just shows which roads are going to be impacted in through that 3-year period. The green is reconstruction, the red is overlay, and the yellow is chip seal or crack sealing. And that brings the end of that presentation. Our intention is to run that presentation at the start of each one of those workshops, and then open it up for question and answer from the residents that are in attendance. And we'll also have the ability at that meeting to pull up their individual taxes and show them exactly what the change in those taxes will be at the meeting. And so that's what we have planned between now and the end of October.
Questions for Dave?
Dave, when is the media going to get hold of this?
There's already been an email sent out to, or announcement set out to the Mining Journal, and I think Randy can probably bring us up to date a little more on what, where exactly the communication's gone.
Yeah, the media was informed by our typical media e-blast out to the print media as well as the audio media, television, radio, and I believe at least one interview has occurred already today. TV6, I believe, too.
And ABC 10.
Both of them were in today to do an interview on site. Looked at the maps, and we'll continue to do that type of a publication, as well as our traditional e-blast and sending things out to the people that we have email addresses for. As
So it
Dave
did go out
mentioned,
to everybody last week, Dave, and I did interviews with both ABC 10 and TV6 today for stories that were supposed to run this evening. They did include the maps of the construction. We talked about the project in its completion and what that would look like, and at the same time, we got a little advertising on the Monday and Wednesday scheduled meetings.
and we also have these sheets available at the front desk, in addition to the e-blast and putting it out with our billings, and there'll be a issue of the crier going out here shortly. We'll have it as well.
The reason I ask that question is because if you get questions, sort of update yourself on this and check our website, and if you don't have the right questions for that person, have them call up here or start coming up here on Monday and Wednesday so they get the right answers. And what we don't want is give the wrong answer or for them not to have the answer they want, because they can come up here and get what it's going to cost them, where it's going to be, and everything else. So we want the information to get out there. And if we don't have the answer, make sure they get the answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Ernie?
It was on the 6 o'clock news today. And that.
Other questions for Dave? Lynn?
I was just gonna say that I'll come either one of those, anytime.
I think
Maybe you
the
guys
more-
can't come,
More
or-
presence we could have at those informational meetings, the better off we'd be.
The only precaution I'd have is if you're going to do it, if everyone uses Clerk Rattari as a point of contact on the
Okay.
ones you're going to attend, so that we don't have a majority of board members showing up at any one time.
Okay,
Our plan is to have, for minimum staff, Jason has volunteered to be at all of these, even the ones after hours, and I was planning on being at them. The road committee members are going to show up, as the rest of the road committee members will show up as they can. Make sure we got a presence there.
good,
Okay. Looks like we have a plan.
good plan.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we need to take any action on the meeting schedule. It's approved and out and ready to roll, so I think as a board, we're good to go. Thank you, Dave. The next item on our agenda is 8B, consider legal counsel recommended fire rescue policy manual. This was not included in the packet for obvious reasons due to the size of it. It was transmitted out earlier. Realistically, the fire rescue policy manual was a long time in coming, had been sent out, and we were waiting for a response from legal counsel. And after the changes that were put in by Lansing last year, Manager Gerard was making sure that we had all the information. His recommendation, I believe, is much like what the recommendation had come down when we got our personnel and policy manual back from legal counsel, was just to accept legal counsel's review and revisions and then remand it back for further discussion, any changes from fire department personnel and the personnel managers. Manager Gerard, is that correct, Randy?
Yes, the board members will recall when the general policies came back, they were adopted as a recommendation from legal counsel, and then we're going to be referred to the personnel committee for their annual review at the end of the year.
So you're really asking the board's action is just to accept them as presented and then send them back to
Correct. Same
they're our working document as of right now. It's accepted as a working document.
If the board agrees with the recommendation, it would be converted. The red line basically would be converted to the regular policy format and would be in place until the personnel committee reviews it at the end of the year, and then any changes that they would seek to make would go back to legal counsel for review prior to the coming to the board.
Okay. Chief Sims, any comment? Please.
No,
I did send it out to all members of the department, and I haven't heard anything back from any of them. I looked through as much as I could, and, you know, it seems okay, you know, if that's the lawyer's recommendation, I'm assuming we have to go with the lawyer's recommendation, so.
We don't have to, but but it's advisable.
Yeah. So,
Okay. So I guess what we're looking for then is a motion just to accept them as the
As a working
legal counsel
document.
recommendation and send it back to personnel and the fire department for any update and revision.
Correct, at the end of the year. Now, the other piece to this is part of the delay is that our liability carrier also has recommended policies that is their take that were referred to legal counsel as well, so they're blended into this as well.
Okay.
So moved, that.
Clerk
I'll
Terry,
support.
motion and support. Any board member comment? Lynn?
223 pages, I only got about the third way through this weekend with
Exactly.
the holiday. But I'm kind of surprised at the format. I mean, we've got forms basically that are part of the document. It's hard to read as far as if you're trying to look something up. Operational policy, I mean, I'm really surprised at the way it's designed. I don't know who did. I don't know if I'm stepping on somebody's toes, but I would see that the forms part of it and the things that the employees are going to sign would be separate documents, not within the body of it, because it jumps. And just have the policies and how they apply to the employee. And it goes back and forth. It calls them members, and then employees, and then personnel, and that kind of stuff keeps changing throughout the document. It looks like it was put together in pieces, which would make sense, but there's no uniformity, and maybe the personnel committee will pick up on that. I've got lots of typos that I found. So I marked up my document. If anybody cares, I can send it to somebody. I don't know who.
Roper, I'd send it to Manager Gerard,
Okay.
and then he can
Some
send it on to
comments.
the Personnel Committee.
And I think one of the things that you're recognizing here is that the fire service is a little bit different than other services of the township in that terminology of member versus employee depends upon what it is you're talking about, because there are different legal standards for workers' compensation, for disability, for insurances, things such as that, where the laws define them differently. Differing responsibilities for the township board in terms of liability.
So the same person is called 3 or 4 different things? and that-
Depends on what it is you're talking about in that particular environment. There are separate legislations for different things. For instance, workers' compensation is totally different for the firefighters than it is for anybody else.
I imagine it would be. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comment? Seeing none, we have motion and second to move or accept the fire department's policy manual and claim that it's our working document until we see another one sometime after the Personnel Committee has the opportunity to review. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Thank you, Randy, and thanks, Chief Sims. The next item on our agenda is consider update for street lighting. I put this on the agenda because there had been some questions about the street lighting that we had approved in the 2014 budget, and we haven't seen those street lights put up yet. I did talk to Manager Gerard about it, and while you don't have anything in your packet, I just wanted Manager Gerard to update the board as well as the public on when we could anticipate the street lights that were approved for 2014 to be installed and in place. I know that we had some that were near North Star Academy, and there were some concerns. The days will start growing short rapidly here, and I think we want those street lights in place. So, Manager Gerard.
Yes, we have been working with Board of Light and Power basically to implement those plans. You had one plan that was developed in February, which was primarily the North Star Academy project, and then there was another project that was the remainder of the first phase. I'll call it the first phase of the urban area lighting, and that entailed a total of about 20 lights that were funded in the 2014 budget. working with the BLP. They are ready to start that project now. I've spoken with them. They will be doing the North Star portion of it first, now that school is in session. And then they will be completing the remainder of the first phase by the end of the year. As you look at your proposed budget for 2015, you'll see there's an additional $15,000 recommended in there for street lighting to complete that project in 2015.
So when could we anticipate that we will have the streetlights, the current ones for 2014, especially the ones around North Star Academy up?
I am supposed to have a schedule from the BLP this week.
Thank you. Any questions for Manager Gerard on street lighting? Seeing none, I appreciate the update. Thank you. I wrote it down as an action item, and I'll just send a email back out to you so that you can reminder to update the board. Hoping that we see those within the next couple of weeks. The next item on your agenda is an update to Lions Field Recreation Area improvements. This is on your agenda because it's been a while since we had talked about it, and we did get the final sign-off from Circuit Court Judge to remove Erie Street between Summit and Cherry. Now that that's finally prepared to happen, and Randy will have a date for us on probably by tomorrow, if you would update the board on that as well, on when that street will be coming up. Overstar is going to have a guy who may have already been there today to give us an idea of what it's going to what we're going to have to be required for us to get that leveled out and ready for moving forward. But we accepted the grant for $100,000 for the ice rink and ice rink warming shack. We had the money set aside for the kiddie park equipment, and we've got all these things prepared to go in a very limited window of opportunity. Unfortunately, it took a lot longer than we had anticipated to get all of the people to sign off on the abandonment. Actually, I thought it would have been done at some point last year, but those wheels apparently turned very slow, and it took much longer. So I want to say that all those things are going to be completed in 2014. I don't have a definitive answer back yet, but I think the board needs to be prepared to answer those questions as we move forward from the folks who are going to wonder if, do we have it prepared to go. We did talk to the folks that manufacture the boards, and there's about an 8-week process in manufacturing those boards. They were given the approval to move forward with the boards as per our budget as a budgeted item for this year because of the lead time that they require to develop them to meet our size needs. I was assured that we still have plenty of time to be able to complete the base, forming it and pouring concrete where those boards get bolted into yet this year. The warming shack, I think, is kind of critical. We've accepted the grant, and that project is ready to go. We've approved the plans as they came before us. So I think those things are all in place, and like I said, it's unfortunate that it took as long as it did to get all the signatures on the document for the abandonment of Erie Street because it really kind of narrowed us down to probably about a 75-day window if we're lucky to accomplish a lot of things. And not that it can't be done, but it definitely puts a little bit more strain on it. We do have staff working on it. We have the rec committee members are prepared to step up and do what it takes to move forward. But I was hoping that my report would be more complete by tonight. Unfortunately, I'm still waiting to hear back on exactly what it would take, even for the site preparation, although I was assured that that was a very minor concern and could be accomplished in very limited time. I wish I had more definitive information. And Randy, I don't know if you have any update for the board members.
Well, as Supervisor Lambert mentioned, we're waiting, now that we have the full approval to go forward, we're waiting the folks that actually do the work to get back with us to give us their time frame and to get started on the project. Everything else is in the works. The playground equipment is waiting to be delivered. The boards are being constructed. There's projected to be about a 28-day cure period for the concrete. We don't think it's going to take that long. There are other ways, we're told there are other ways to do it that it'll cure more quickly. Weather is going to be the primary factor that we have to deal with, and we'll go from there.
Questions or comments? Ernie?
As we move forward, if we're gonna vacate that street by tearing it up, I think we need to get out to the residents what we're going to do, and very quickly, that we're gonna be doing this, the street's gonna be, no longer be available. And so that's gonna have to be somehow to get it out to everyone in the area that utilizes that. That's difficult to identify.
Yeah, most of those people were involved in the abandonment process, had to sign off on it. So, you know, that was part of what took so long, is everybody who was within a perimeter, basically, it's defined by law, had to be talked with, given a copy of what was happening, sign off, have the opportunity to challenge it. And then it went to the Attorney General's office in Lansing, and that's where it sat for weeks.
What I'm thinking about is, like, with school starting, you got the bus routes, so we're gonna make sure that they can adjust that. Your medical people, the ambulance and that, so they're all aware of this is gonna happen.
Yeah, and those folks have all been involved in the discussion. Yep.
He's right, Ernie is right, that we need to get a notification out to them now that we're finally here and it's gonna happen. They have been involved, but they've also know that we've been talking about it for 2 years and it's finally come to fruition. Lynn?
Does the high school or anything have any plans with the field that this would interfere with this fall?
No. Clerk Terry?
Should we maybe put those road blocking signs there now to give everyone the preview to what's going to happen? So we just don't start taking the road up and people are saying, what are you doing? So we block it off now and then.
We've been advised not to do that.
Not to do that?
Yeah, we've been advised to not put the barriers up until we're ready to take the road up.
Okay.
Prevent people from driving around.
Yeah.
Would we be able to put guardrails up in the short term across that road with the signage, road closed, as we start to take up the road?
Fencing will be part of it
Okay.
as well. So it will be
As it turns into an
visibly
active
blocked off.
construction area for the
It'll be
next
fenced.
2.5 months, I think it's probably important
Correct.
that we.
It'll be secured.
Okay. Anything else?
I think when we're talking about the recreational area, I think the item that the young lady brought up today at public comment maybe need to be addressed. And to me, I'm trying to visualize it, and I'm not having a good time as to really what she's talking about and how it's going to affect everything. That may be something we want to look at too. So
She has been to the rec committee and has met with Manager Gerard, talked with Manager Gerard, has talked with Trustee LaRue, has met with the rec committee and expressed her concerns. She has seen the plans. I understand her concern about safety, and part of the plan is to put a natural barrier of hedges or cedars along in that area to give them maintain their privacy. Also to put in a neighbor-friendly, fence that's also, part of that to really block it. We have, in fact, the home in question, their storage shed is on township property and has been since the prior owner was there.
It's a different lady.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's a lady across the street.
Oh, okay. And I know, they're concerned with the pucks that were leaving the area. You have to understand too, is that the way the rink was oriented is going to be different with the new thing. That was an end zone before that faced the street. It would have been harder for us to, we had screen up, but this one actually has a fencing material, not just basically a net screen. It's fencing material to keep the pucks in above the rink. You couple that with some cedar trees and a wood fence, and I think that we'll have a much more adequate way of keeping pucks inside of the rink during the winter time. We'll put up whatever we have to have. The elimination of the parking spots that they're talking about, if we eliminate parking spots, people are just going to park along the road. The idea behind putting in angled parking was to put as many cars as possible into that area without, to try to eliminate as much as they just line up across the street and make it very narrow, because they park on both sides of the streets out there. So I don't know that eliminating 5 or 6 parking spots would necessarily be the answer to what they're looking for, because I think those cars are going to park somewhere, and it may mean that instead of parking and angled parking there, they would go out and just line both sides of the street up to their driveway, which I don't know that would enhance the safety of what's going on there. But I know that the rec committee is still continuing to look at it. Those things are not going to be completed this year. They're going to be completed probably next year sometime as far as the parking improvements and that. So we have, certainly heard their complaints and concerns, and all that's been taken into consideration before the final plans come out. We still have time to make changes. Another thing, although we've accepted the plan in concept, we still have a lot of time to make changes to make it as neighbor-friendly as possible, and I know the rec committee's looking at that. Dave, you had something to add?
Just to clarify what that resident was talking about tonight, the houses that she's concerned about are located on the west side of Erie Street, on the north side of Summit. And if you recall the area when we put the ice rink in recent past, we left a line of trees that ran from the west side of the park up to Erie Street along Summit. And that line of trees that she is concerned about removing, and it will take away several parking spots if we leave those trees in there. And I think you make a good point. I think if you don't put the parking spots in, they're going to be parking on the shoulder anyway. So it's an issue.
I think it's one
But
that the rec
I
committee...
just wanted to clarify where she was talking about.
The rec committee, it's the whole northwest corner is where we've had some concerns, and I think the rec committee can certainly take those recommendations from the residents into consideration. Planting cedar trees along that side, removing the trees, putting the angled parking, but still having room for putting cedar trees or some other shrubbery across that end of the end zone of the ice rink certainly would allay some of those concerns, I'm sure.
Yeah, the concept plan on the west end of the park calls for a security fence along with cedar trees for screening from the immediate neighbor on the west, be on the northwest corner of the park. But the other one that was here tonight is talking about the north side of the park on the northwest corner.
Like I said, her house on the last few years' orientation of the rink was in the north end zone of the rink where pucks were being fired in that direction, which, because of the way the rink's being turned, is no longer a target, for example. I mean, they won't be fired that way.
That's actually going to turn 90 degrees to where it was, and the screening that's going to go up there will protect the goal end, if you will. It will face the property on the immediate west. It'll protect that better just with the screening that's going up. What was up there before with the boards we had in, there was no screening. And the goal end was actually facing the house of the lady who was here tonight. So the pucks could go right across the street.
Thanks, Dave. Anything else? Seeing none. Randy, when you do get more information, if you would send it out to the board, we would appreciate it, as far as the equipment from the Marquette County Road Commission and moving forward on the take-up of the road. The next item on our agenda is 9A, consider the ZBA proposed bylaws. In your packet, you have a copy that was received from Roger Zapp as legal counsel. Again, the opinion of legal counsel goes back to the Zoning Enabling Act, and whether the township board, much like the rules and responsibilities that we put together and proposed bylaws for all of our committees, we wanted to have some consistency, whether it was the rec committee, the road committee, whatever. And that was the whole driving force behind this, was that we had each of our committees members were able to see what the duties and responsibilities were, and we had legal counsel approve them, and as a new members join, they can go through an orientation and be handed the bylaws. But as you're aware, the Zoning Board of Appeals is a unique animal in that it's a quasi-judicial board, and the township board, in legal counsel's opinion, doesn't have the right to enforce these rules or bylaws onto that committee. The reason that it's on your agenda is that because we had legal counsel work through it, and with Chairman Marks has seen them since we received them back, the idea is that we can review them and send them on to them, saying that we concur with legal counsel, and for the Zoning Board of Appeals to see ours as a recommendation. They have the ability to either adopt them or not adopt them, to change them, whatever format they'd like to follow. You did receive the copy from Mr. Marks this evening about the one change to Section 6 here. The wrong part was struck out, and I've already updated it in the working copy that I'll submit back to you if the board agrees. But I think that the one change in Section 6 where it says the Zoning Board of Appeals rather than the Township Board would be the only other recommendation, and Mr. Marks reserved time, so John.
The copulation of the township's interest and the adhering to the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, there's been a long effort made, and I think it's culminated in the attorney's recommendations to the board for you to recommend to the Zoning Board of Appeals. That's all taken a lot of time. There's been an interest in adhering to the Enabling Act, which really takes precedent over all of the actions of the Zoning Board of Appeals. It is, in fact, as the supervisor has said, it's a unique board that has powers that need to be controlled, and I would hope that the Zoning Board of Appeals members, when this comes before them, will understand that the Township Board has to retain and should retain. They have an obligation to retain some control over their appointed ZBA. They need to understand that. And I'll do my best as chair to pass that on. But I think the 7-page recommendation from the attorney, the duties and responsibilities, really represents a lot of work that's been done over the years, a lot of conversation about the concerns of implementing the rules and the regulations. So I like it. I approve it. I will take it to the board when you're through recommending it. I would ask you to make the amendment necessary to correct the one section that needs correction under Section 6. But after that, I want you to know that this 7-page work of the attorney to copulate all of the needed information and sending it on is a great document. We're going to have, if you'll send it on, make the amendment, send it on, and it's adopted by the Zoning Board of Appeals. This would be a document that will be treasured by other zoning boards of appeals all across this state. It's never been put into this kind of a document. And it's always been because townships have not followed the Enabling Act passed by the legislature. And the Enabling Act was put into play and passed by the legislature because there was a history of actions taken that needed to be corrected by board members. Actions of the board members needed to be corrected. So this now stipulates exactly what they can do, what they cannot do, and when in fact it is a conflict of interest. We don't have that kind of a problem here, but it was one that was recognized across the state, and that's why the legislature passed it. But it's very difficult to put that together with the desires of the township, and that's been accomplished in the 7-page document. I urge you to make the correction on that one section, and I urge you to pass it on. And as a chair, I intend to ask the 5-member board to adopt it. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. What's the board's pleasure? To entertain a motion to make the amendment as requested under Section 6 amendment so that it reads, these bylaws may be amended at any meeting by a vote of the majority of the membership of the Zoning Board of Appeals
So moved.
instead of the Township Board.
So moved, I'll make that motion.
Support.
Motion and support. Is there a board member comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. And then another motion to move it forward, the approved document to ZBA for their consideration as operating rules and guidelines with the concurrence of the Township Board and Legal Counsel.
Also move.
Second.
Any board member comment? Lynn?
This doesn't have any kind of a date. Do we put like adopted on or recommended on by the board or something to show when it actually
Nice.
happened?
I mean, I think we can put something on there, but I think probably appropriate would be for it to go, we move it to the ZBA, they consider it, and whether they adopt it, make changes or whatever, they accept it and they send it back to us just to show this is the one that they have adopted, and then we can put the date on there that they've adopted on such and such a date, board concurrence on such and such a date.
So then does the ZBA, in this case probably the chair, distribute that to each member when they're appointed, or we do it?
Clearly, every board member of the ZBA needs to receive this
Right.
and understand it.
So is that our responsibility or, staff's?
I think that it's a responsibility of the chairperson of the ZBA to always make sure that every member, whether they're new members or current members, understand and has a copy of the rules and procedures with them so that they know what's expected of the
Okay,
body,
okay.
Could we have the requested roll call vote?
Sure. Are there any other comments or concerns? Seeing none, request the chairman a roll call vote. Clerk Letari?
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Durant,
Yes.
Trustee Pompo,
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Limita.
Yes.
Motion carries 6 yes, 0 no, and 1 absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is consider the budget work session dates. It's that time of year again that you've all been looking forward to. And it's time to set your calendars, at least for the short term. And what I would propose, at least initially, I mean, we have 4 months before budget has to be adopted. We have plenty of time for a lot of meetings, but I think that we need to put at least a couple into the books. First and foremost would be just the very first go-through of the budget. Have Manager Gerard present, and just for us to walk through the budget as it exists. It's not different from other years that you've seen. But just a complete walkthrough of the whole budget with a Q&A session and a work session. And then after that, we can begin scheduling some of the sessions with department heads, et cetera. And always in previous years, the biggest amount of time was taken up by Public Works. I would suggest that we, after the work session, have some sessions where we can work through some of the other ones as rapidly as possible. We have plenty of time now for you to take the time to digest the budget. I'm not suggesting that we need to jump into it, this week or something, because it's really just been released to the board. You want to have, I'm sure, a couple of weeks to review before we hold that first organizational meeting, but I'm here for whatever the board's pleasure is. Anybody have any suggestions? Ernie?
These are kind of out of it, because that's the evening meeting for the roads, is it not?
And planning.
Pardon?
And planning.
And planning, so.
Clerk Terry?
As in years previous, I would suggest that we limit our sessions to 2 hours or less.
Agreed. Are there dates that work? I mean, this month we've got some open dates because we only have the meeting on the 16th, and then there will be a 2-week period, 3-week period before we have the next meeting. So the latter part of the month will not, have board meetings scheduled that week of the 22nd on, although I think there's a possibility that I'll be out of town for the 23rd and 24th.
I'll be in Detroit the 23rd, 4th, and 5th.
Do we want to try and get one in October, or September?
Yeah, I think we should. I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
How's the week of the 15th? Is that too soon? It's 2 weeks.
if the board's comfortable with it, I mean, you've got a couple of, that would give you 2 weeks to review all of your budget materials before the organizational or the very first walkthrough of it, sometime during that week of the 15th.
Or one of the sessions on the 16th, either the first or the second forum.
To do that too. If it's a relatively
do the
light
walkthrough.
agenda on the 16th, we can take it on the meeting and put it in as a the initial budget session, and do it in the forum discussion after new business.
Do that as the walkthrough, the initial walkthrough of the budget.
Just have a light agenda for the 16th and then.
Pardon?
Because we had 2 hours.
It's the initial walkthrough, so we wouldn't necessarily spend full 2 hours on it.
No.
Just the initial walkthrough, and then after that, before we really start dissecting the budget. But just that, always that first initial walkthrough, maybe it takes about an hour to go through and get questions answered, more support documentation, materials, that kind of thing.
Give it a try.
Maybe I would suggest on that second forum discussion of that September 16th, we start the initial budget, and then if we do run up against our time limit, we don't have to. We can end it without foregoing the regular business items of that meeting. So,
True.
excuse me, maybe that would be a prudent maybe start on that second forum discussion. And the residents do then also have the opportunity to view the start anyway as part of that meeting. And then we can go to 9:30 that evening. And then, from that point on, we can schedule other meetings also.
Good suggestion. Everybody comfortable with that? having it as a second forum discussion for the initial budget presentation, and then scheduling the meetings moving forward from there. Come with your calendars and be prepared to plug in some dates for, at least the next, after that 16th, at least plug some dates in for the following 2 weeks. And just speak, if we can get at least another 2 meetings in that time, that would be great. That would bring us right into that first week of October. That's possible. I'm hoping that we actually can wrap this sooner than we normally do, and with the constraints that the board placed on rate and fee increases last year. I think it should help us move through a little quicker. Okay, well, I'll schedule it on second forum discussion for 9/16, and come prepared to then schedule the next couple of weeks' budget dates after that. Any questions or comments from the initial review of the budget? I know you've only had it for a few days. Any support materials that you see that you think may come in handy, send me an email, let me know, and we'll put information together so that you have it all at that time. Thank you. This brings us to agenda item number 9C, consider the manager's 2014 goals and objectives update. It's that time of year where Manager Gerard's reviews. In fact, I sent the email out just prior to this meeting to all board members with the electronic and hard copy of the manager's goals and objectives. Manager's performance evaluation. So I asked him to provide us an update again of his goals and objectives for 2014. Pursuant to the employment agreement that we have with Manager Gerard, we do need to provide his performance appraisal. So you have basically 1 month to complete the performance appraisal before we have to wrap it up. So I did request that you have those into Clerk Rotari in electronic format no later than September 30th. I asked Randy to provide the update to his goals and objectives, because that's one of the things that certainly has to be considered in any evaluation of the township manager, is how well did his progress reflect the mutually agreed upon goals and objectives for 2014. And with that having been said, Manager Gerard, your update to the board.
I really don't have anything to add to the ribbon. It's pretty well up to date. We're basically a month ahead of the close of the third quarter, simply because we're doing the evaluation prior to the end of the third quarter. So, if there's any questions, I don't really have anything else to add.
Okay, questions for Manager Gerard? Secretary?
The only comment I would say is on an email, you can send it electronically or provide me with a hard copy in a sealed envelope.
When did you send that?
Just before, right prior to the meeting.
Oh, okay.
You should have in your inbox right now. And it's the same exact format. If you recall, Manager Gerard's contract calls for using the same performance appraisal system that has been in place for the township for a number of years now. It's no different than the ones that we've been filling out for the last 5 years. The dates to be considered, because of the time we do it, is always September 1st through August 31st of the prior year. So just keep that, be cognizant of the fact that we're reviewing his actions from September 1st of 2013 through August 31st of 2014. Certainly he has some time to complete some of the things in his 2014 goals and objectives, and we'll take that into consideration as we review his performance. We also have the 2013 goals and objectives and how well he completed those, and if you needed a refresher on those, I certainly have the 2013s I can send out. If you're interested, I can send out the recap of all of the ratings from 2013 as a reminder of where he was, and what we based his goals and objectives on were the compilation of all 7 board members' ratings in that system. And I do have that recap sheet available if you need it as a refresher, or if you don't have a copy of the ones you completed last year and you'd like to see it. I have copies. I have copies in the file of every board member's last year's, and if you need a refresher, I'd be happy to provide that copy for you. Any other comments or questions? If not, we'll close this item. Lynn?
I'm just wondering if we have an update on the sale of the old building at all.
Have a meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock, should be the final meeting.
So we may have something for the next meeting? Okay.
Is DPW all moved yet, or are they still got a few left?
That's been part of the holdup, was the unanticipated things that needed to be done to the building prior to move-in. So they're just about totally moved over now, but not quite. But we should be wrapping things up tomorrow afternoon.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we will close it and move to agenda item number 9D, the manager's report. Manager Gerard.
It's going to be pretty brief because I was out of town for most of the last week, Wednesday to Wednesday. But mainly the budget process that we're coming into. The budget, as you look through it, will look very similar to 2014. We've tried to keep a projection of revenues realistic, recognizing that our normal revenue streams that we would look to as we have in the prior years may not be what comes forward in 2015. So we've projected both parameters for you, high and a low, depending on what happens with the Supreme Court. We've adjusted the budgets as such to be balanced and to be within our projected revenue stream in either case. The biggest differences you're probably going to see is in the fee structure, which really has not been overhauled in a number of years. We have pulled in inspection and enforcement type aspects of the fire department that have not been in the fee schedule previously. It's been a separate fee, so you'll have them all in one location. Some of the changes to the zoning ordinances over the 2 years have changed procedures and practices and some definitions that have impacted the fee schedule, so those have all been caught up in this version of the fee schedule, so you'll see that. With regard to just a couple of quick other items, I think you all received the legislative update from MTA that's going directly out now by email. One of the things that's on there is the fireworks legislation that we were somewhat skeptical of when it was passed a couple of years ago. Well, it's potentially being repealed this year. It did not generate the revenue that they thought it would generate, and it did generate lots of issues that they didn't anticipate that it would generate. So there's a chance that that's going to go away. The only other item that I want to bring up to your attention is on the water, on the water pumpage report. You probably noticed, even though we didn't pull it off of the agenda, you probably noticed that in March, April, and May, we pumped almost 3.5 million gallons more than we did the prior year. Well, that's a direct result of the winter freeze-up, the let runs, and the breaks that we had that we are unlikely to see any reimbursement for, in my opinion. The governor has taken a position to allocate the authority for the decision on whether or not you are going to be reimbursed to the Department of State Police Emergency Services Division, with the codicil that they apply the Community Development Block Grant requirements under that program, which we do not qualify for. And I've raised that with the governor's office, I've raised that with state police, and I've raised that with our legislators, that by tying those reimbursements to the Community Development Block Grant requirements, you basically ice out all townships. One of the requirements is you have a traditional downtown that's been in existence for a period of time, that you have a population base that's sizable enough to create a larger contribution, and some of those criteria we simply cannot meet. So we're being iced out of it. I think intentionally, again, puts townships at a disadvantage.
Questions for Manager Gerard? Randy, did Duke Life Point make an announcement that they're moving to the township yet?
I must be going deaf. I haven't really heard much of anything. Let me take that back. I've heard lots of locations that they're going to be locating to at various times, but nothing official.
Are there any other businesses that are looking to locate in the township that you can share with us at this time?
There are 3 that are currently in the works that we are doing preliminary site plan work for, but they have requested that they not be discussed publicly, but I would be happy to talk with any board members privately with regard to what they are, and they're all located right close to us here.
That new development behind the mall and that big, I don't know what you want to call it, not the hospital, but the other one that's been going.
Oh, the Up the Sky development?
Yeah, up the sky.
They are still tied up in a dispute over the access to a stretch of 150 feet of right-of-way as to whether it's public or privately owned. And I don't believe they've gotten a court decision on that as yet. But there was some indication today from one of the parties that it can be cured.
Big box.
This is light at the end of the tunnel,
Money.
Green light.
Yeah.
potentially.
I know they're anxious. They are anxious to get going. They wanted to be building this year, so they're anxious to get going. And I think once this issue is resolved through court, and like I said, it's a dispute as to whether the piece of right-of-way that's there is actually a public easement or if it's privately owned. And the court is trying to determine that through records.
If nothing else, we will close the manager's report and move to public comment. Those members of the public wish to make comment may do so at this time. Seeing none, I will close public comment. Move to additional comments from board members. Pete?
I just want to make a couple comments about the MTA session we went to the other day. There was about 96 registered people that went there. It was at the Holiday Inn for the 27th and 28th. And one of the better parts of that was when the legislators were there. They had 5 of them there. They had Representative Scott Dianic from the 110th district out of the Copper Country, John Keevala from the 109th district. They had Representative Ed McBloom from the 108th district. He's out of Iron Mountain. Senator Tom Casperson, the 38th Senate District, and Howard Walker from downstate, even though he is born and raised in St. Ignace. But they hit a lot of issues. They hit issues about transportation, education, economy, the gas tax. They talked about land buying. They talked about the big box stores. And John Keevala said that about the box stores. He said it just such a argument that he said such a so simple thing that you can look at and so wrong, but so hard to sort of fix the mistake that they made. They just keep on pounding on it. So I think it's Howard Walker from downstate. He said he's working with their Chamber of Commerce. I believe it was him, wasn't it, or was that Scott? I forget about it. He's talking about this. He's on the Chamber of Commerce. He's beating on them people about it. So they are working very hard. The gas tax, I think the consensus of the group that you won't hear nothing until after the election. But I was kind of impressed with, for 5 of them, this first time Walker was up here, but the 4 guys from the UP, how good they work. They don't always agree on everything, but they really work good together, and they represent the UP, and I think we should be very proud of them. And I've asked them, what can we do? I told them how much we appreciate them being up here, and they've been up here in our hall right here. They've been here at least 2 or 3 times. But they said, just keep the questions. Call them up, send them the emails, all their concerns that you have right here, make sure they get them, because they really want, and that's what keeps them going. So that's what they really want us to do, is keep them in line. That's about all, and thank you for sending us down here. I think it was a great 2 days. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Clerk Otari?
echo Pete's comments as I did before about the MTA summit. I thought it was very good. Excuse me. And then also too, I believe Pete mentioned, Trustee LaRue mentioned earlier that these meetings are on channel 188 now with the new digital service of Charter. There's another method of watching them. Excuse me, there's a link off the township website to our YouTube account, and all the meetings are usually placed there the night after. So I think Trustee Pompo at one time was gone, and he got the opportunity to watch our meeting while he was away. So there's various avenues of watching our meetings. So because if you're on, I think, the Dish Network or the other satellite service, I don't believe they offer that local programming. I could be wrong, but so just bring it to the residents' attention that there's other opportunities or ways to watch the meetings if they can't get it on their cable as of now.
Thank you, Clerk Rattari. Treasurer Johnson? Dan? Lynn?
Oh, thanks.
Okay. The only thing I'd have is echo what was said earlier. Remember that school is back in session. There's kids who are excited about returning to the classroom and running in and out. They're not always paying attention. So help keep the township safe, and especially watch it around to and from school times as well as school buses. Thanks for making this a great place to live, work, and play. With that, I entertain one last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.